AJ, can you hear us, sir?
You bet I can.
All right, wonderful. Okay, and we probably should have lots of people now. We got 27, so I think we're going to get started. So guys, welcome to another edition of REW Academy Premium. Today, this is a special edition because we're co-presenting with a wonderful company that we work with in luxury real estate. And so I am going to be introducing my friend Megan Barry, who is the president of Luxury Real Estate. And Luxury Real Estate, of course, is a very exclusive organization that works with just the top, luxury brokers in every market. And Megan is going to be introducing our speaker and coach for today. So Megan, why don't you take it away? Welcome.
Thank you, Morgan. Thanks so much for that great introduction. And I just want to say, though, that one of the things that's so great about this collection of people is that it's been a classic case of perfect networking, where you meet people, you connect over the years, they introduce you to other people, and here we are today. But I want to say thanks so much for being here with us, both AJ and Morgan. I'm Megan Barry from Luxury Real Estate, and we're co-hosting this webinar with our exclusive partner in websites and CRM, Real Estate Webmasters. It's really great to introduce AJ. He's a new member with our network. Just this week, we've been setting him up, and we've been able to look directly at some of the beautiful properties that he's listed and sold in beautiful Kelowna. And not only is he an amazing operator and coach, top agent from his region, he's also successfully transitioned from a top agent to the CEO of his company, Vantage West Realty. And he's here today to speak to us. So thank you so much, AJ, and thank you, Morgan, for creating this opportunity for all of us to be together.
All right, thank you so much, and welcome, AJ. I am going to put you in the driver's seat, my man. Looks like you're already there.
You betcha. I'm just going to crop this thing so it hits the right spot, and we are off to the races. Okay. So thanks for that intro. Appreciate that, Megan. And it's really exciting to be a part of this fabulous network. I'm excited to meet all of you guys, and hopefully in person soon when we get to do in-person events again soon. So today I'm going to walk you through a presentation that I'm really excited about. Now, this is the first time I've had the opportunity to present this deck to anyone, and I think that you guys are the right audience for it. So I'm excited to get your feedback on it, and feel free to let me know what you guys think of this afterwards. Now, although I've done my fair share of luxury business, I'm sure there's lots of people on this call that are more qualified than I am to tell you how to go out there and land a few more luxury listings. I am, however, qualified to train you on how to build an amazing business. And my team this year, we're on track to do about 10 million in GCI, and that should bring about $2 million to the bottom line. And I don't say that to impress you, but just rather to show you that it's a fairly substantial business and should give me some credibility. I spend 4 to 6 months a year away with my family, and I haven't shown a home in years. So today I'm going to walk you through the framework of what it takes to build a 7-figure business that you can own and operate from anywhere in the world if that's your desire. And I'm not going to go slow, so you'll definitely want to grab a pen, and I'm going to have a few resources that I'm going to give away for free along the way. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I think a lot of people on this call probably suffer from the same affliction. You're a top producer, you're successful. Your desire is to build a business that works for you versus you working for it. Now, the problem that so many of us, and myself included for many years, find ourselves in is that when we set out to build a team around us, we end up working twice as many hours for half the net pay with 10 times the stress load. Now, if that resonates with you guys, throw it in the chat, say amen or you betcha, so I know that this is landing. So today is all about how to transition from successful realtor, which all of you are, to a CEO of an enterprise level business. Now, the first thing that any business needs to define is its value proposition. Firstly, who are your customers? You've got sellers and buyers, but you've also got agents. When you're starting to build a business, an agent becomes one of your customers. So your goal is to find an effective way to articulate your value, your unique selling proposition, and then get that message in front of your 3 customers. Now, there are a couple ways to do that. The easiest way to articulate your value is through a presentation. Belly to belly, you get the opportunity to share all your differentiations, build rapport, but marketing is a more leveraged way of communicating that message. So you need to be able to succinctly demonstrate how you're different and what the benefit is to your target customer. Now, after this webinar, I'd love for you to take just a few minutes and flesh out what you think your value proposition is to each of these market segments, and then what your communication strategy is going to be in order to get that message across. Now, an individual agent with an individual agent mindset usually won't take these steps because they in and of themselves are unique. But to grow a business beyond just yourself and to stand out, then your business needs to stand for something that matters to each of these constituents. And that's your sellers, your buyers, and other agents in the marketplace. Now, with your value proposition clearly defined, your next big priority is going to be creating a scalable lead generation funnel that brings you clients on demand. Now, the simplest way to do this is by having a high converting website, such as an REW site, and an effective pay-per-click campaign on Google that scales. Done right, you will get immediate traction out of Google PPC, but with these campaigns running, you want to be reinvesting a percentage of that top line revenue back into more PPC as well as search engine optimization, because that's a really nice 1-2 punch. Now, the next key to this, which will reinforce the effectiveness of this campaign on Google, is to have a world-class Google business account, ideally with more Google reviews than your local competitors. The Google business account is one of the most overlooked tools, and yet it is one of the most used tools by our customers when they're looking for our services. So it's mission critical that you optimize your Google business account so that you appear in the top 3 on the Google map, as well as one of the verified accounts with Google along the top. Morgan, you could probably attest to this. To truly dominate on Google, you need the client to see ads at the very top, your site hopefully organically on page 1, and a Google business account in the top 3 on the map with dozens, if not hundreds of 5-star reviews. When you get those things right, it's like rocket fuel. And then you can optimize this for luxury search terms if that's the segment of the market you want to dominate. Would you agree with that, Morgan?
Absolutely. That's something we were talking about last night even, is that there's been studies done where people, when they see you multiple times in any kind of advertising situation, like they type in something like Kelowna waterfront luxury properties or whatever, if they see your ad, even if they go past it, and then they also see your profile, and then they also see another organic position, that lends huge credibility to your business, because that's 3 impressions in 3 different ways. And the cool thing about that is a lot of times people will skip the ads because they're trained to. But Google has done some studies that talk about how if they've seen your name in an ad before they see your organic result, they're actually a lot more likely to click on your organic result. And in that scenario, you don't have to pay for it, which is awesome. So it actually helps reduce your cost for getting new customers, which is really great.
Nice. And then lastly, and nobody wants to hear this, but you need to invest the time in really mastering your CRM, whichever one you're using. REW has a great one, but there's lots of great ones out there. The most important thing is that you actually use the one that you have. Without a doubt, this is the #1 reason why people who start lead generation campaigns will fail, is that they fail to work the leads effectively within their CRM. I know a lot of us top producers, especially if we've been around a long time, we sort of fight this idea of using the CRM, but it is so critical, especially if you want to step away from the business at some point and be able to hold people accountable. So if you and your team aren't leveraging the CRM, I got to tell you, there's almost no chance of playing this game at a high level. Now, let's assume that you have adopted your CRM for the purposes of this. You now want to implement a lead protocol. And so to really master conversion, you need to have rules when it comes to accepting your leads. And so we use a 5-minute speed to lead. So whether that's your inside sales or that's your agents getting the leads directly, speed to lead is everything. Then after that, we mandate a double call. Most people will not pick up a phone call from someone they haven't seen the number before. You got to call them again. That's going to increase your connect rate by about 30%. And then within your CRM, you need to have follow-up campaigns that are automatically launched when the lead hits, so that it reminds you to follow up, because a lot of these people are going to need to be attempted 5+ times before they're going to pick up the phone. And then you want to have some really good automations in behind that drip value-based reminders on these folks. And so that's huge. If nothing else, just these little lead conversion pieces will 10x your results with your conversion. Now, after that, you need a proven sales process. So, we're all naturally gifted salespeople, but when you want to train agents working for you, they need scripting. Okay. They also need presentations that are handed to them so that they can run a client through a presentation that leads them to a predictable result. And then you need to have a consultative sequence that these people are well trained on. This is your sales process. And then a simple system for closing. We naturally, innately know how to motivate and influence people to take the next step. Salespeople who will join your team will need some training around this. And this way you can duplicate yourself without having to actually go out on every showing in order to get people to cross the finish line. And then the piece that holds it all together is proper tracking. I call it agent OQ, which is the opportunity quotient, which is the amount of appointments that they go on versus the amount of those that actually cross the finish line and do a deal. That gives me a percentage ratio. There's certain thresholds that our agents need to stay above. And then we have a team scorecard that measures absolutely everything from leads generated to appointments set, all the way through to buyer's agency contracts or listing contracts signed, offers accepted, how many of those close, and then how many of those will bring in a review or leave us a review. So you need a proper scorecard that's tracking all of the metrics. All right, the next big decision that you need to make as a CEO is how you're going to handle your lead flow. Do we send them direct to agents in a round robin, or do we create an inside sales department? Now, my experience over the last 10 years experimenting in the lead conversion game has been that when you send leads directly to agents, they typically do not possess the follow-up chops to nurture a lead for 6 months to a year or more. They're also not going to call them 5+ times. So they just go for the low-hanging fruit. And that is never going to get you past even 1% conversion, which, you can make a living on 1%, but the gold is in the 2 and 3% conversion. So the other discovery I've made is that 3 good inside sales agents can do roughly 10 times the amount of outbound calls each week than my entire team of 12 agents when I had them calling. So it is a massive difference in output that you'll get from ISAs who aren't distracted with things like servicing the customers they already have. So the next decision you need to make if you choose to go the ISA route, and I highly recommend that you do, is are you going to do an internal ISA team? This is your own team within your team, or are you going to outsource it using options like virtual assistants overseas, or there's lots of companies right now that specialize in inside sales for realtors. One major consideration, of course, is whether your area allows unlicensed prospecting to take place on your behalf. In British Columbia, that option is not there. So, we have chosen to go the route of hiring and training licensed realtors in this role, and it's worked out really well for us. So how do you find them? Well, we've had really good luck with job postings on Indeed, or anywhere where you do where high-end career-minded people will go to look for job openings. And then we also market to our database by email marketing. We get lots of great referrals from good, talented salespeople who work phone sales jobs in other industries that reply to that email. And then we also do events, career nights, and we share the opportunity, what it looks like, what the benefits of the role are, and we get lots of applicants using event-based recruiting as well. So the next question, hang on, sorry, I got a baby monitor I have to turn off here so you don't have to hear the beep. I'm almost on dad duty here. So how do you train them? Well, the first thing you need is that same operating procedural manual for inside sales agents. So we've got a 40-page booklet called the Effective Communication Manual. I'm more than happy to share with you guys. If you put your email in the chat, I'll make sure that you get a copy of this gargantuan PDF that you can use. Regardless, you need a sales process, and you need a script book, and you need to have these inside sales agents spend the time to memorize and role play all of the different dialogues, all the different objection handles, etc., before you turn them loose on your leads, okay? Next up, how do you pay them? Well, the simple answer is well. This is a very hard role to retain, and it's not your intention or it's not in your best interest to be stingy here. You want an inside sales agent to see a clear path to making 6 figures. We use a combination of base salary and commissions, and then we also have little bonuses. So they'll make $3,000 a month. They'll make about 5% of the sale on commission, and then we give them threshold targets where they can hit, make an extra $1,000 a month in bonuses if they hit those targets. So if an inside sales agent expects to make over 100,000, they're going to need to do over 100 transactions a year, which is great for the bottom line of your business. And it's not that difficult for them to do that when you're getting quality PPC leads coming through a website like an REW site. Which leads into how you keep them. This is a really hard job to retain for. It takes a special animal to want to get on the phone and make 200 phone calls every day. So the way to do that is make sure they're making enough money to take money off the table. That's number one. But after that, it's by offering them a different quality of work life that a real estate agent might get. Okay, you want to empower them and give them the autonomy to set their own hours, right? You want them to be able to say, okay, you can manage me with metrics. I need to make X amount of calls, or I need to hit X amount of appointments every day, but I want the autonomy to decide when I do that. Maybe I'm going to do a 2-hour shift in the morning, And I'm going to go about my day, go to the gym, walk my dog. And then later I'm going to come back in for a 2-hour afternoon session. And I know I'm effective enough on the phone to get on a dialer and make the amount of connects I need. I want that autonomy. The other big benefit that an ISA has is that they don't have to work evenings and weekends. I know team leaders do make them do that, but then that's starting to get into realtor territory, which they're not really looking for that. So you want to flip the after hours leads back out to the agents directly and give these guys the peace of mind to know that their evenings and their weekends are theirs. It's also really important to gamify it. Create fun little bonuses, like you can have a couple ISAs competing to see who can make the most contacts or who can book the most appointments, and put a decent sized carrot out there, and you'll see that these guys are wired that way. They're red meat eating salespeople, and so they love a good spiff or a good carrot, and production just goes through the roof when you do that. So gamify it, make it fun, and it's also important, just for their own self-worth, for them not to see this as a stepping stone role to becoming an outside agent. Okay. They really, in our organization, they probably feel a little bit above the outside agents because they've been empowered. They're the ones that are bestowing the opportunity on all these hungry agents that want these appointments. So, it's a role where they get the autonomy, they have the work-life balance, they're making great money, and they don't feel lesser than. So that's how you keep them. So that is the ISAs.
AJ, I think you've answered it, but I'd love for you to re-articulate, because obviously one of the big concerns for a lot of our folks when they're building these things is, once I invest in turning them into killers when it comes to setting appointments and stuff, how do I stop them from going out on their own? And it sounds like you're saying it's that work-life balance. You want the people that don't already know what that looks like to be that realtor, and they want to do something else. Is that right?
You got it. My top ISA has 2 young children under 2 at home. She likes to be able to spend time with them. She has no desire to be running out, showing properties, doing any of that. She makes, close to 200K a year. And, she probably, I don't know how many hours a day exactly she works. She probably wouldn't tell me the exact number, but I suspect it's a lot. It's half of what agents that are making the same money in my team work. So I think she's got a pretty good gig. I don't see her wanting to go outside at any point.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So the next piece of your puzzle in building this enterprise is that you have to have a sustainable comp structure. It's my belief that the standard 50-50 model, and some teams are even offering better splits than that because they're trying to compete on splits and not value, right? It's just like when you go to a listing appointment, you could race to the bottom against the other agents and and offer a lower commission, but you don't. You try to build your listing presentation. That's why we belong to networks like the Who's Who of Luxury, is because we're trying to build value so that we can, in return, command premium dollar. Well, the same thing applies here. We want our agents to receive value, and then we do that by giving them a better lifestyle, and we give them a better lifestyle by giving them more leverage. That's what they really want. The agents really want a better split, or what do they want? They want to make more money for working less hours. That's truly what they want. Okay. So you can accomplish that by giving them brokerage or team services that elevate their earning capacity, build a team around them, and then allow them to do more transactions, which is nice because an agent has a couple of choices. Once you build a team around them, they can either do more transactions, which most of them do, or they can have their evenings and weekends back and endear their family, which is also great. In either case, there's no greener grass for them. It's nice when your organization pumps out more deals because when you have a machine that is existing on a high volume of deals, your growth rate is going to be exponentially faster because our business works on repeat and referral. So the more new clientele we bring in, the better. So you want your agents motivated to do 5, 6, 7 deals a month each, not 2 or 3 on really high splits. Now, the other cool part about having an operation with more transactions, not just having more advocates and more referrals, is that it gives you an opportunity for vertical integration. If you're doing way more deals, you can vertically integrate into mortgages, into property management, et cetera. Just more volume equals more opportunity. All right, so that's comp. Next up, once you've got those items in place, I'm often asked, how do you attract top talent into your organization? I can tell you for a long time, I struggled with this. What you need to create is a systematic approach. For us, there's 4 ways that I've found to be the most effective. The first is event-based recruiting, and I've been doing this for about 8 years now. What this means is that you host or promote an event on Facebook or Meetup or Eventbrite or any of the event sites. Facebook's pretty simple and it's very effective. We like to promote it as a career night, and we'll target both unlicensed people and licensees in the area that we'd like to see join our team. Now, the goal is to pack your boardroom at the office with 10 or 15 people and then present your team's value proposition. So this is going back to that value proposition we discussed in the first slide. You want to build a presentation around that value proposition. You want to explain your team's culture, your mission, your vision, your values. All of it's going to be very compelling to someone thinking about getting into the business or somebody who's struggling on their own. Now, at the end of the presentation, when you open it up for questions, inevitably someone's going to ask you, okay, this sounds amazing. What's the catch? Well, then you get to say, well, the catch is this. There's 15 people in this room, and we unfortunately only have room to bring one of you on. Now, this flips the script. It turns the tables on agents who believe that they're out there interviewing you. They can go anywhere and anybody will take them. So this actually turns the tables and makes them realize they're in a competition for a highly coveted position on your top team. And now they've got the right frame of mind to apply. Another great way to bring fresh talent into your team is by having a showing partner program. Now, this goes hand in hand with offering more leverage instead of better splits. You give your top agents, once they reach a certain production threshold, access to a showing partner. Now, the benefit of the showing partner is they get to work under this top producing agent and they get to see from the inside 50 to 100 transactions before they become an outside agent of their own. And they're going to earn a base salary similar to an ISA, maybe $3,000 a month, and then commissions of about 5% cost of sale. And then, obviously they're not going to be party to as many transactions as an ISA, and they are definitely going to work evenings and weekends, but they see this as more of a earn while you learn position. So, they're more than, this isn't going to be long-term. This is a year to 2 years, but you constantly bring in new people and new talent this way. And by the time they hit the ground, they've done 100 transactions, and they're serving two purposes. They're leveraging your top producers and they're getting the best possible training before they become your new agent.
AJ, I got a question on that. So one of the things, because obviously we're speaking to, a luxury focused audience, and part of the concern we hear a lot when we talk to luxury brokers who want to become, businesses is that, they recognize how special their presence is, right? They've built up this personal brand, and what they'll often say is, we want to bring on agents, but they don't have the same credibility in the luxury markets that I do. People don't recognize them. Would you say that buddy program, or whatever you called it there, with showing partner program, is there a way to leverage that in a marketing scenario where they can start building some visibility as a newer agent in that luxury group?
What I did, and it worked really well for me because I used to have that same fear, is I maintained in the beginning the initial consultation. So when we bring in a new luxury buyer, I would be at that first meeting, spend a lot of time getting in rapport, spend a lot of time really trying to understand what it is they want, creating a game plan, etc. At that meeting, I would have my showing partner there. And I would edify my showing partner by saying, this is my partner, Cassandra. She's actually amazing at the portion of the role that she's going to play in this. She's far more organized than me. She's far more available than me. And she knows her stuff when she gets you out there. And she's going to be able to coordinate things, remember things, keep detailed notes as we go. She'll have a great road file. My natural gifting is helping you come up with a game plan, negotiating the deal when you do come across a home that you love. And I can problem solve because I've been party to a few thousand transactions. So there's probably nothing that's going to come up that I haven't seen. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you set the course, do the negotiation, which is the fun part for me, and problem solve. Everything else, Cassandra is probably better suited and better at than I am. So between the two of us, you're going to have an unreal experience. I've never had a luxury client push back on that. Never.
Right. But on
edify them properly.
On the recruiting side, it almost seems like a value. You're building, you're building that that opportunity for them to be associated with a luxury listing that they probably could not have earned on their own, right? And that's like you said, you have that fear. Everyone has that fear, right? We work with, you and Craig Northrup and Frederick Eklund and all these people, and they're like, well, people come to me because it's me, because I've got that visibility. So I love that partnership. I love that bringing them along, because now they're in pictures, their social medias with luxury properties. Their name presumably would be on a lot of these deals, right?
100%. But your name still that's what brings the business in, but it doesn't require your time. It just requires your standard.
Right.
Your presence is not required. I think we think that's a thing we get hung up on. It's actually not. Your standard is required, not your presence.
Your standard is required, not your presence. I love it.
All right. Another big driver of talented applicants for us has been just putting out thought leadership type articles, videos. I put out a video every couple of weeks just to the database of realtors in our area, just on stuff helping them elevate their game, things they can use in their business. And then, when you're putting out useful stuff into your industry, it'll attract the people who are looking for that kind of leadership. And then lastly, if you're looking for something a little techier, a little more highly leveraged, I've found a lot of juice right now in one-to-one outreach through LinkedIn. You can use the Sales Navigator tool within LinkedIn. You can create a list of people that you want to go after, and then you can have a virtual assistant. Even if you want to get really leveraged, you can have a VA do a pre-written outreach message with a little link that says, hey, if you want to talk about opportunities, here's a link right into my calendar for a virtual coffee. And that's been working out pretty well for us as well. All right. So retention. The retention is the next piece. So once you've got the talent, you got to keep them, right? And when you start building this roster of talented individuals, your next big challenge is to create a retention plan and create the runway that they need in order to stay. So there's 4 pillars to retaining top talent. The first is you need to build an unshakable culture. People, especially the younger cohort, like to be connected to a common purpose. So they also like to surround themselves with people of similar values, and they enjoy the camaraderie of a team all supporting one another. So you've got to get the right butts in the right seats, people who have a common set of values. They all need to get it, want it, and have the capacity. You want to connect people to a common purpose. For us, we're building the real estate office of the future. That's sort of the overarching thing. The other piece, the other common purpose for the year is that when we hit our goal, we go do a fabulous trip. Like we're going to go to Cabo this year, husbands or spouses, et cetera, and just go and have a big party. The other thing with building a great culture is the leadership has to be bottom up. They call that servant leadership, where you really need to be of the mindset where you're not handing down quotas. You're actually, you're there to support their business and their dreams. And then read the book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. That is so key when you start to build a team. You want to remove that, and it all starts with trust. You got to create the trust, and then you've got to create an environment where people feel comfortable within conflict and all that. It takes a little bit of work to do that, but it's well worth it. We do that by offsites where people get vulnerable with one another. We do some really fun team building stuff that way. And I've always found this is a really good one, and you want to write this down. Every time you do a team meeting, start with gratitude, go around the horn and ask everybody what they're grateful for. And then at the end, ask everybody to finish with some appreciation. And that appreciation needs to be for somebody else on the team who did something either for them or for the team. And it's just some recognition. So when you start with this really nice vibe of gratitude, and you finish the meeting with it just pulls everybody together, and it's an awesome way to start and end every meeting. And it goes a long way to building the culture. And then lastly, you got to celebrate the wins. We get so caught up in next, and I'm wired that way myself. But you got to just take a beat and, have a bit of fun with the team, go golfing, go up to the ski hill, do fun stuff like quarterly, and celebrate the success that you're having. It's so important. The next big piece is you got to create unlimited runway for people. And the biggest issue that most teams have had, and if you guys have experienced this or feel this or fear it, put it in the chat, but it's this long held belief that once a person on our team reaches a certain level of success, that the natural next step is for them to go off and start their own thing or start their own team. So it's not perfect, but you solve that by creating runway. So we've come up with something we call leverage track. And this is where we actually build a team around a top producer to ensure that A, there's no greener grass, but B, they have the lifestyle that they're looking for. They get time back. And then we've gamified it. So as an agent ascends through the different production milestones, they unlock more and more leverage. So their earning capacity increases, but their lifestyle also increases as well. And lifestyle is such an important piece, especially when we're talking about, the younger cohort, the millennials. These guys, they work to live. They don't live to work like a lot of us. I say us, like I'm an elder millennial, but I think I kind of relate more to the boomer mindset. All right. The next piece is leadership opportunities. Tony Robbins says the number one reason why people feel a sense of fulfillment is growth. So there's no better way to grow, as we'll all learn when we start building a team, than moving into a leadership role. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to have all these managers, but mentorship and a little bit of revenue share attached will usually scratch that itch. We also give them an opportunity to lead their small team around them that's supporting their business. So in order to foster this leadership, we invest in leadership training for our top producers. And this, this allows them to feel that growth, that personal growth. And that's the reason why people stay. And then lastly, we found that top producers, when they're bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to the company dollar, at some point, they're going to want a seat at the table. And you can call them senior partners. We did that for a while. Now we just refer to them as shareholders. We've kind of gone to a profit share model where they have some employee co-shares, and nothing gets people aligned with growth within an organization more than a profit sharing plan done right. So here are 4 ways that you can connect people to the bottom line. You can do training bonuses. So this prevents you from having to train the new agents. You take a top producing agent and give them a mentee. And then when they finish the, whatever the training modules you want them to go through, they get a few grand. Also revenue sharing. So maybe on the first 10 transactions that new agent does, they've got a mentor that they go through, and you do a little bit of revenue share, maybe $500 a transaction on the first 10 that they do. Also recruiting bonuses, $2,500, $5 grand. If somebody brings in a great recruit that sticks around and does a few deals, I think a recruiting bonus is fair. And then profit distributions. If you want to go all the way as far as what we've done, we take a percentage of the net profit and we distribute that amongst the people based on their shareholder entitlement.
AJ, is there any ownership in your company when you talk about, obviously a seat at the table? Do you have do you actually have a share structure, or are you just talking about it's really just it's accountability contract and payment contract for a piece of the revenue?
Yeah, no, so I took a chunk of the equity of the company and I put it into employee co. And then those shares can be purchased. Some of them have been awarded based on, production and time served and things like that. But yeah, so definitely it's an equity piece. It's a real seat at the table. And, we do a monthly shareholders meeting, and these guys can weigh in on the direction that the company's going and celebrate, the great month we're having, celebrate the quarters, and the distribution checks are always nice to get. And, yeah, so definitely.
And so for our American friends who are competing against, I want to say this the right way, some models that advertise basically just revenue share models and stocks and things of that nature, but they don't have the focus on luxury or production. Does that, you find that helps? I mean, is that even a conversation for you guys? Are you competing against those EXP type models in terms of recruiting, or is it, do you find that's just an easy way to say, yeah, we actually have something better because we're luxury and we have that? Or how do you position
Yeah,
it?
totally. It becomes part of the value proposition for sure. And I think, EXP's done a good job of luring agents away by not giving them a seat at the table, but giving them, the sexy equity component, the stock, the shares. Ours come with a way better dividend than any other publicly traded real estate company. Like, you can't buy shares of any publicly traded real estate company and expect dividends in the double digits. And that's kind of what our company spits out, double-digit returns on that. So you get, pretty great distributions and you get the growth. Our goal is to 10x the value of the company, not just keep cranking out great returns, but to really grow the value as well. So.
Nice.
All right, this is a cool slide. This is kind of our whole accountability matrix. And so to run a business like a CEO, you've got to have simple systems of accountability woven throughout your entire operation, starting with having each of your team members. And this is something I really enjoy doing with each of my agents. It's called the 10-year vision exercise. You really want them to stretch, and it's your job as a team leader to help them see themselves as a 10x version of themselves or their current self. And you're going to go through this exercise, and when you do, you'll understand their intrinsic motivations. And then along the way or over time, you'll help them be accountable to the plans that they've set within this 10-year vision. So as CEO or as coach, it's your job to help them see what's possible for them. And then, of course, this goes a long way to helping them see themselves with you for the next 10 years. Now, once you've got an exciting and compelling vision of the future to anchor to, it's time to make it granular. So in late December every year, we ask our team members to come up with an annual business plan that considers exactly what they want in their life. And then they have to figure out how many transactions, factor in tax and all the things they want to do. And then they figure out, based on their average transaction, how many transactions they'll need to do, and then take it a step further and figure out what are the lead indicators, or what are the activities, or what are the metrics I need to focus on in order to make this happen, to make it for sure happen. So that's the annual. Once that's submitted, and we think annual goals are great for forecasting and they're great for planning, but that's about it. From there, we live inside what's called a 12-week year. Okay, and so the 12-week year is a great book if you want to read that. It's about periodization. A year is too long. People will usually, there's not enough urgency in a year to really motivate or change behavior. So we live inside the 12-week year, which means we get 4 years per calendar year. And the nice thing about the 12-week year is you get that 13th week to either make up what you didn't do or celebrate when you did do it. So it's a really cool periodization. It gives you a nice sprint, relax, sprint, recover tempo. Now, with those 12-week years, I'll have a 12-week tactical plan attached for themselves. So then chunking it down from there, they've got a monthly sales manager call, which when you're first growing your team, that sales manager role will be filled by you. But eventually you're going to have a sales manager who's going to do these monthly calls and hold the team members accountable, look over their metrics, take a look at their conversion numbers, potentially offer training where it's needed. Maybe they're slipping on presentations and they're not getting as many people signed, or maybe they're signing them, but people aren't coming across the finish line. Whatever the training it is that they need, you can diagnose it on the spot. And then taking it down from monthly, we have a weekly accountability partner. So we call these WHAM meetings. And that's, again, out of the 12-week year playbook. And this is a peer-to-peer system of accountability between them and their WHAM partner. And it's at these meetings that our team members will hold one another accountable to the habits, to the proactive activities, and the commitments that they make to one another. And then lastly, this is called The One Thing. And Gary Keller wrote the book, The One Thing. We've adopted this in a big way. We make sure that our team members at all times have one thing that they must do each day that makes everything else either easier or unnecessary. So it's like that eat that frog, that one thing they've got to do. And hopefully that one thing is prospecting, or it's that thing that keeps their business rolling. So there you have it. That's the accountability matrix, starting with a 10-year macro all the way down to a daily micro. Now, every successful enterprise needs operating systems in order to thrive. The good news is you don't need to invent anything here. It already exists. It's out there. I get a lot of my ideas from books. These are all books. So if you want to jot these down, they're all great books that have laid out the main 5 operating systems that we use to run our business. Traction by Gino Wickman, which is the entrepreneurial operating system, is like a comprehensive operating system that you can use. We use Profit First Accounting, which is a game changer, because building these businesses, they can become cash-eating monsters that never actually have that inevitable net that you've been waiting for because you constantly reinvest it. So Profit First, you take the money off the top and hide it. It's a great way to do your business. The cult of the customer is really good for culture. It's really good for getting everybody aligned on what your customer service, what your team motto is. The 12-week year I talked about already, and The One Thing also. So those are the operating systems that we work within. If you can get all 5 of those, I find that they all dovetail really nicely with one another. And that's given us a great total system to work with. Next up, same author as Traction, is this book called Rocket Fuel. When it comes to building an organization that you can eventually step back from and out of production, there's probably no more important slide in this entire presentation for you to get into your head than this. Okay, the book is Rocket Fuel, Gino Wickman. It explains the dynamic relationship between you, the visionary, and an integrator. It goes on to explain that most of us who start companies are visionaries, but we lack the skills needed to properly integrate the systems that are going to be crucial to our scaling. So starting with who they are, this person is typically the polar opposite to you, the promoter, the salesperson. These people are introverted, they're methodical, they're calculating, they're measured, and they make natural chief operating officers. These are not likely the people that you're going to go out for a beer and get on like a house on fire. This personality type is usually oil and water with yours, but you'll come to learn that this relationship is probably the most important relationship you can foster within your business. So what do? Well, they're in charge of implementing systems, accountability, hiring, administration, training, tracking, reporting, holding you, the CEO, accountable to a regular meeting pulse. So think of it like this. You're the one that makes it go, and they're the ones that make it stick. So why do you need them? Well, in my experience, my business had reached sort of our ceiling of complexity. It's as far as I could take it on my own natural gifting. I couldn't transfer my natural abilities into other agents by osmosis. I needed somebody to help me systematically arrange my business so that it was ready to add people to it and that they could have a predictable system for success and those simple systems of accountability to hold them and keep them successful. So where do you find this integrator? This is a great high-level job posting that you would get some great applicants for if you put it on Indeed. You can also ask for referrals from your database like we did before, or hire a headhunter. If there's ever a time to invest in a headhunter to look for COOs or great managers at other operations, this would be the time to make that investment. And lastly, how do you pay them? Well, just like the ISAs, this is without a doubt a six-figure base salary role, and their compensation should also be tied to performance. So many of you are probably thinking, I can't afford this. And I got to tell you, in 2012, I felt the same way. I was very skeptical. It was a lot of short-term pain, but the long-term benefit of this is just exponential. And this person has become so valuable. His name's Michael Plowman. He's become so valuable in my organization that, I brought him in as an equity partner as well. Like it's just, it's a must-have piece for any visionary. You need to have your number two. And that's why they call it rocket fuel. Once you find it, it's rocket fuel. All right. So a lot of people ask me about the org chart, and, real estate offices can seem kind of messy, but, they're actually really quite succinctly organized. So you have two options. You can do the brick and mortar localized business. That's what I've chosen to do. And so we've got, employees and subcontractors and everybody's local. So the CEO at the top, he's got your operations person and your sales manager beneath you. And then you've got the operations person managing all of the administrative roles. So, I've joined two roles together on some of these just to kind of condense the org chart. In my organization, there's multiple roles. Client care is its own role, transaction coordination is its own role. But in the beginning, we had one person wearing two hats. Same thing with marketing and lead coordination. One person, two hats. Same thing with our office manager and our accountant. One person, two hats. Now once the business reaches a certain size, you have people siloed in each one. The sales manager is going to be managing outside sales agents, herding cats, if you will. Your inside sales agents, which is really just managing metrics and making sure you've got fun bonus structures attached. And then the license support. The license support are your showing partner program, making sure that you're providing support and giving them an ear to come to when they're having issues. That's what the sales manager does. Now you've got another option, and this is more of an EXP kind of style model. You can build a successful enterprise level organization that you can run from anywhere in the world and just assemble a team of remote contractors and service providers. I mean, there's everything out there. You can outsource your ISAs. You can outsource client care to a company like Client Giant. You can outsource the marketing, of course. You can outsource transaction management to a company like Transactionally for a per transaction cost. And so really you're there up at the top. You might have a great executive assistant who could also be virtual. You would have a contracted CFO and a contracted sales manager. There's people you can hire for $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month that'll manage your salespeople by remote. And this new world we live in, everybody's used to taking their management calls via Zoom. So you could build this and have the entire ecosystem all as contractors. It'll scale with you. You're definitely not taking anywhere near as much risk as you would be if you had bricks and mortar, et cetera. But for me, a big part of my reason for doing this is to build a community, to build a group of people, create opportunity for them so that, we can do the fun stuff, right? This is the picture on the left is us. We went to Mexico the last time, and we had 35 people there, and the charitable stuff that we get to do, like giving away toys to kids at Christmas and the team bike rides and all that stuff, right? So yeah, is there some sleepless nights having $200,000 a month in fixed costs? Sure. But having a group of, now we're up to 50 people almost, that we get to, become family. That's what it's all about for me. So, you have options, but I can tell you this much: building a business like this is very gratifying. And the only thing you really have to figure out is how do you want to do it? Do you want to do it the low risk way, and go virtual, or do you want to build a group of people and be responsible for keeping all these people's jobs? So now you've got a business, it runs itself, whether you sell a home or not. It doesn't stop there. You've got this really cool opportunity and this obligation to continue to cast a larger and larger vision for your company. And it becomes your main rule and your main role is being able to see into the future and continually bring in new opportunity to the group. And I've done this by vertical integrations. So, the first expansion play that we made was into property management, and that property management company now feeds deals back into the real estate company. So the two become like a flywheel effect, which is really good. And all it was we were doing so many referrals to property managers, and I had my own base of rental properties. It just made sense to start that arm. And it's not a massive leap when you already have the business. Think about how many referrals you give to a mortgage broker. It's not a massive leap to do a joint venture with somebody who's got the level of licensing required to have their own firm. And now you've got a 50-50 joint venture relationship in the mortgage business. Same thing with your title rep. I network with all kinds of people who have vertically integrated all of those and more. They've got HVAC companies, they've got, contractors and doing home repairs, et cetera. So lots of really cool things that you can add into your sphere and create a one-stop shopping experience for your client. So over the last few years, we've been able to launch these fairly effortlessly because you've always got kind of the working partner in the joint venture. So that's not you. And, each of these verticals has added up to a fairly sizable chunk of our collective revenue. So there you have it, guys. That's how you go from top producer to CEO. Hope you found that helpful. I'm really looking forward to hearing what questions you guys might have for me now.
AJ, first of all, that was super awesome. Thank you so much for that. I think we're going to have a lot of questions, and Eliana has already grabbed some, so she's going to go ahead and post the first question in the chat here. And just a reminder, guys, that this will be available, of course, to you, as well as a lot of these materials. So for those of you who've dropped your email address in the chat here, we'll provide you a connection to AJ. Eliana is also going to drop in AJ's Instagram. So if you want to give him a follow there on Instagram, that would be great. And again, our members of Luxury Real Estate as well, we're going to be sending out some information on how to access this, as well as more information on REW Academy and Luxury Real Estate. But yeah, first question here, are your ISAs licensed? I think you answered that, but do you want to just take a shot at that?
Yeah, and that's mandatory in British Columbia. We can't do anything but yeah.
Okay, so if it wasn't mandatory, what would you do?
Probably, well, I don't know. I haven't experimented with the other options. They may well exist. A combination between an AI bot and a person in behind that was well trained on your scripting could work.
Okay, let's see here. We had Carlos was asking, how do you translate value to owners versus Sotheby's or Compass if it's not racing to the bottom while building your brand?
A very compelling listing presentation, which will now include the stuff that we are getting from the who's who of luxury. And we've always had a really good listing presentation where we're good at marketing, so we walk people through how it is that we elevate the competition for their home. And by the end of it, they're so impressed. Nobody really has this comprehensive of a presentation. And we ask them the question at the end. We say, if we take price aside for a second, do you feel we're the most qualified to handle the sale of your home? And it always leads them to a yes. And then now you get to have an isolated conversation about price.
Right.
But it all comes down to the presentation. And I'm more than happy to work with anybody on beefing up the value of your presentation. But with a really killer presentation, you shouldn't be even talking about commission.
Speaking of you working with people, just to drop a value bomb here, AJ does also have his own coaching business. So for anyone who really wants to focus on implementing this at a very high level, AJ, how would you recommend they reach out to you for that?
I love chatting with people on Instagram. It's just a nice contained spot. So you can follow me at VW Academy. You're welcome to send me a text or an email too, but I just find that for me, the people who are kind of interested in having that level of conversation, it's nicely contained within Instagram. If you don't have an Instagram account, no problem. You can shoot me an email, info@ajhazzi.com, and I'd be more than happy to chat with you.
Great. Got a couple more questions, or a couple more minutes for questions here. Andrea has asked, do you have a recommendation for a VA or maybe several that have different skill sets?
My outdesk has everything. They're dialed. Like these guys, they know how to, they've got people pre-trained. They've got the job descriptions already set up. You could have literally an entire ecosystem of VAs from my outdesk.
Tony Sykes. Tony says, how long did it take you to make the transition from top producer to a CEO?
2012 was when I got serious about it. 2016 was that picture of us on the boat. And by that point, I was off the tools. So it took me about 4 years. And I think I could speed that up knowing what I know now. Like if I were to have to start at zero, it probably wouldn't take me, it'd probably take me half the time.
Nice. Nice. All right. I think that is about it for questions. Now, Megan, how do we get a hold of you if we want to hear more about this great organization that AJ has just joined and that, of course, Real Estate Webmasters is partnered with?
Sure. I'm going to just put my email address into the chat. But you can go to luxuryrealestate.com, and that's been popped into the chat a couple times. And there's information about us in the About Us section. We have a video and a whole bunch of other stuff, some information about our company history and all of that. We're kind of an interesting bird in this industry because there really aren't any direct competitors to what we do. But I will say it's funny listening to AJ talk about his sort of evolution. You sound an awful lot like the founder of our company, you know, who is now in his 70s and, you know, is a little less present these days. But it's interesting to sort of hear these stories from people. You guys all have a very similar streak within you, these entrepreneurs, these agents, these brokers, these leaders. It's really interesting to see. So, and I'm also pleased to see some of our people, a lot of really recognizable names in the participant list. So hi, everybody.
Yeah, and what I love about REW and Luxury Real Estate and AJ's group is that picture that AJ showed about his culture events. That is very easily a picture of one of the luxury real estate events. And if you haven't attended, there must attend. And it's the same thing with REW summits too, right? Like I think we all believe in the power of connection. And I think AJ, you make a great point that things can be done virtually, but I think that's a common thread between all of our organizations and a lot of the members as well, is that we truly believe that relationships are belly to belly in a lot of ways. And especially on the luxury side and the high end side, I don't always want to meet my, $10 million listing agent virtually and have them convince, you know what I mean? Like I want to have some FaceTime and I love that sort of sabbatical nature of the three organizations. Someone had asked, will this be shared? Yes, this will be available via the REW Academy for anyone who's a Real Estate Webmasters customer, and also available via Luxury Real Estate to any of the Luxury Real Estate members. So we will send that invite out afterwards. And again, if you reach out to AJ via Instagram or via email, he will hook you up as long as you're not in Kelowna. He's so great about talking about being a servant leader. He is so great about sharing his secrets and just his tactics and scripts and stuff. And I already can attest to the fact that it has benefited our real estate business. My wife and I are in real estate here on Vancouver Island, and we actually use a lot of the drip campaigns and a lot of the stuff that AJ has provided to us. So it's huge value, guys. And AJ and Megan, thank you so much. I know AJ, especially for this presentation. This was wonderful. And I can't wait to have your next presentation at the end of the month. It's going to be awesome.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you guys giving me the floor for 45, and it was nice to connect with you guys. And I look forward to meeting anybody in this group that would, if you want to jump on a discovery call and see how I can help your business, I'm more than happy to do that. So.
All right, guys, have a great rest of your week and great weekend. Thanks again.
All right.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Bye, y'all.